Okay, and welcome back, students who are taking financial accounting. And in this series of videos, we are working on the Chapter 7 assigned homework problems from the Digital Study Guide, the exercises for Group B. Note, accounting is about understanding the concepts and then applying that understanding to the situation at hand. If you get the application aspect wrong, that is one thing, and is easily remedied by watching someone else work the problem. However, if you don't understand the concepts, that is a whole other thing. Watching a problem worked out will not help if you do not understand the underlying concepts. Go back and study the text material again and watch the theory videos. You still don't understand something, contact an instructor to get help. Okay, so we are now working on exercise 7-35, and this is aging of accounts receivable allowance method, so the aging method. On October 31st, the accounts receivable balance of Richards Manufacturing is $307,000. The allowance for uncollectible accounts has a $4,200 credit balance, and he prepares this aging schedule. All right, 1. Journalize the year-end adjusting entries for uncollectible accounts on the basis of the accounting schedule. Calculate the resulting ending balance of the allowance account based on the account aging. Show the T account for October 31st. So let me create the T account, and so this is allowance. I'm not writing it out. Right, and so it says here we have a beginning balance of 4,200. And we need to make the adjusting entry based upon the aging here, and then show what the balance is. Right. Before I do that, all right, I'm going to go and look at number 2 here. So it says assume that instead of 4,200 credit balance, there is a 1,300 debit balance in the allowance account prior to adjustments. Journalize the year-end adjusting entry using the aging schedule, calculate the resulting balance of the allowance account, show the T account. So basically 1 and 2 are the same. The only difference is that is what our beginning balance is. And this here is a good exercise because when you look in the book, and up until now, you've always had a credit balance as your beginning balance in your allowance account, right? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to have a credit balance. I mean, in this case here, they're saying you're starting out with a $1,300 debit balance. So, basically 1 and 2 are going to be the same. The only difference is going to be your calculation, your balance on your allowance account. So, let's do the aging here. Okay. So if my accounts receivable is 125,000, I'm going to write the journal entry down here. Okay. Here's where I'm going to write the journal entry. I'm going to do the math over here. All right. So I have 125,000 at 0.3%. So that amount is 125 times 0.3%. So that's 375. So I'm going to write the 375 here. Then I have 80,000 at 4%. So 80,000 times 4% is 3,200. Then I have 61,000 at 6%. Times 6% is 3,660. 3,660. And then I have 7,000 at 55%. 7,000 times 55% is 3,850. That's 3,850. And when I do the math, I get 5, 11, 18. That's 4, 10, 20, 2, 9, 11,085. Okay. So if that's the balance that I need in the account, right? So I need a credit balance of 11,085 in the account, right? How do I get to that balance? Well, I have to add up my debits, add up my credits, subtract one from the other, and that in order to get the $11,085. So if I have 11,085 and I have a credit balance already of 4,200, I subtract one from the other and I get $6,885 is what my journal entry would be. So I make that journal entry as a debit to my bad debt expense for $68.85, and I'm going to credit, and I'm not going to write it out here, but it's my allowance for uncollectible account of $68.85. So that's my journal entry, my adjusting journal entry I need. And when I end up posting it to the account, okay, I'm going to end up posting the credit. This is a credit to my allowance account for $68.85. And of course, when I do the math, that gives me the ending balance of $11,085. Okay. All right, now B here. All right, go ahead and pause the video and write all of this down. All right. The reason why I'm pause the video right now and write all of this down. Okay, so if you pause the video, I'm going to do some erasing here. We don't need to erase everything. All right. What we need to do is we are going to have a different balance here. The calculation is still going to be the same, right? And we're going to get rid of this here, right? Because it's telling us that instead of a $4,200 credit balance, there was a $1,300 debit balance. Okay, so I'm going to still do the aging, and my aging is still going to give me the 11,085. Right? But now, and I said this was what was important about this video, this exercise, and that instead of having a credit balance, I have a debit balance. So if I have a debit balance, how do I get to the 11,085? Well, I add up my debits, add up my credits, right, and then do what I have to. So in this case here, I have 11,085, and to get to that amount, I actually have to add in the 1,300. So I have to make an adjusting journal entry on the credit side of 12,385. And so, oops, 12,385. So that's my adjusting journal entry in order to arrive at the balance of 11,084. Okay, all right. So that's all that really was different for number 2. All right, was doing this here mathematical calculation. I'm going to erase the math here and just give you a quick, I did it, and maybe some of you might not get this part, so I'm going to try to illustrate it in a little bit different manner. Okay, in the previous, and for number 1 we had 4,200, and we ended up with 1185, and we had a 68. Well, how much was it? Yeah, 68.85. Right. This was number 1, and this was number 2. Okay. Now, how do we do the math? Because remember, we're backing into into this balance, right? We're backing into this balance. We have a starting balance, and let me erase this here. So go ahead and pause the video and write that down if you have to. All right. We have to we're doing the math, and we started out with a balance of 4,200. To give some kind of visualization, use a number line if you have to. Okay, we're going to call this over here 0 because we're dealing. Let me go across here like this. All right, this is 0. Okay. Now, for the allowance for doubtful accounts, right? Remember the normal balance. This is a contra account. The normal balance for this account is a credit, right? So we're going to start out someplace on the number line here at 4,200, right? Remember, this is a credit of 4,200. We need to get to a credit balance of 11,085. So if I put it over here, a credit balance of 11,085. If I'm here and I need to be here, what am I going to do, right? Well, the difference between those two numbers is 6,885, right? And since I'm going from a credit to a credit, right, I'm going to credit 6,885. So that's what it looks like visually. So when you're having a little difficult time, figuring this stuff out, go ahead and draw a number line, and it becomes a little bit easier to understand. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video because I'm going to erase this and then do the second scenario. Okay, so in the second scenario here, oops, let me erase this. In the second scenario here, okay, I'm starting out with a debit balance of 1,300. Remember, normal balance is a credit, so this side's a credit, and this side is a credit, and this side is a debit, right? So I'm starting out here on the number line at 1,300, and I need a balance of a credit of 1185. Okay. Well, if I'm going in this direction, right? If I'm going in this direction, right? I'm going to need a credit. What am I going to credit? Well, I have to credit the 1,300 and an additional 11,085, right? So when I add 11,085 and 1,300, I get 12,385, right, as a credit because I'm going in this direction. Okay, and that's how I ended up with a credit for $12,385. All right. So I hope that made that a little bit easier to understand. I mean, the reality is after you've done this for some time and you understand the relationships, as you saw up here, all right, it was easy for me to go and say, okay, I have 11,085 and I have a debit of 1,300. I knew I needed to add those two together in order to get that amount, right? Well, visually, this is what ends up happening, and that's why I used a number line as a tool, because in case I ever do, question something, okay, it makes it easier for me to understand how to arrive at that number. Okay, it's just an additional tool. And so that's it for this video. And if you don't understand something, go ahead and rewatch the video again. And if you still don't get it, feel free to contact an instructor. Okay.